Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us for today's webinar on regulations, cosmetics regulations, so that we get the right regulations in place, follow them up, and be able to export our products into different parts of the world. As usual, WACOMP, the West Africa Competitiveness Program, the Ghana component, is hosting this webinar. You would all know we've done a number of webinars in anticipation, preparing our products to enhance our competitiveness. Today we are happy and we are delighted to welcome you once more to join us. We have an experienced and international person who knows it all about cosmetics regulation in the person of Carmen Esteban from Spain, who would take us through this webinar. He will give us all the necessary information that we need to know in anticipation to prepare ourselves for the future. We would also have our colleagues from GSA and FDA join us to also tell us a bit more about the processes, how it is done locally to get ourselves ready. So we wait for a few more seconds to get other colleagues to join us, and whilst they join, just allow me to introduce WACOMP once again. I guess by now most of us know, but if you are joining us for the first time, we say WACOMP is the West Africa Competitiveness Program. It's funded by the European Union, and in Ghana, it's implemented by UNIDO. I am Charles Saki, the Chief Technical Advisor of the project. Our three main value chains are cosmetics and personal care products, cassava and its derivatives, fruits. We're working mainly on mangoes and pineapple. The aim of the project is to enhance the competitiveness of the Ghanaian economy through the production of these products, value addition, selling in the domestic market on high-end markets, and also aiming for the international markets. We're organizing this webinar, as we all are aware by now, because of COVID issues. We are not able to meet face-to-face, and WACOMP has taken advantage of technology, and we've been able to reach out to as many people. As of now, we've done about 13 webinars. We've reached almost 1,000 people. It's remarkable, and without you, we wouldn't have achieved that feat. So we welcome you all, and we thank you for joining us. I'll give on screens today, we have, as I said earlier, Carmen Esteban. She is our resource person. She knows everything about cosmetic regulation, if I should say, if you should allow me. She is she's Spanish. She works in the industry. She also has a career in the university, and she'll tell us more about herself. Then she will go in and then tell us all there is in the cosmetic regulation sector. We also have on screen our program manager, Juan Pablo Davila, who is joining us from Vienna. So Pablo will say a few words, after which we would have a short poll, as we always do. So we'll go launch into the poll so that Carmen will have a fair idea who the participants are. Thereafter, we would move right into presentation. So I hand over to our program manager, Pablo. You're welcome to Ghana, and please tell us a few words before we kickstart.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you are safe wherever you are connecting to this webinar. As mentioned by Charles, we are organizing this webinar to support the competitiveness of three value chains. One of the key elements of being competitive is to know the expectations of your clients, know the requirements of your clients, whether these are private requirements or these are regulatory requirements. So the purpose of this webinar is that you, at the end of the webinar, will know something that you didn't know before. And I think that's already something that we want to achieve, that you know what are the different requirements, for your projects in the different markets. Without anything else, thank you very much for connecting. I will also welcome some participants from South Africa. We have a sister program, the GQSP in South Africa, which also looks at the competitiveness of the essential and vegetable oils. So welcome those participants from South Africa. And please ask questions to the expert. Don't hesitate to ask any question. And as much as possible, these questions will be answered. So thank you once again very much. And I hope that you enjoyed and you get something out of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pablo. So at this stage, I would also want to remind all participants that please use the Q&A button. You can start uploading your questions so that we would be able to answer all questions as soon as Carmen is able to finish with her presentation. At this stage, we would have the poll coming up. So up screen, it's coming up. We'll treat all of us to answer these questions. These are a few questions we entreat. So what is your main product? Is it shea butter? Is it shea-based creams? Is it shea oils? Please, you go ahead and then answer these three questions for us. Once we have a critical mass, a critical number answering, it will be taken off screen, and then we would move up and then get the rest flowing. So the second question is, are you already exporting? It's a yes or no answer. We would want to know how you're performing. And if you're exporting, where are you exporting to? Other African countries, the EU, US, and the Middle East. Multiple choice answers are also allowed at this stage so that we get to know, Carmen gets to know who the participants are and how familiar are you with the regulations of each country. You may be very familiar, you may know the basics, and you may not be familiar at all. Just as my program manager said, it doesn't matter whether you are familiar or not familiar at all. At the end of this webinar, you would get to know something you didn't know. You will get to appreciate it, and you know where to go in terms of lab, in terms of support domestically, and also what you need to do. And WACOMP is also with our experts who will be prepared to handhold you, take you through a coaching session, get you well prepared for the future. So yes, I can see the answers popping up. In the next few seconds, we'll have the results of the poll, and Carmen will now start with her presentation. We'll treat as all of us to please answer these questions for us. It gives us a better idea, and it gives the resource person who is far from us to also know where, as we say, stress in her delivery. So what is your main products? Tell us your main products. Tell us if you're already exporting, where you are exporting to, and then give us a fair idea to know how familiar you are with the various regulations in different countries. As we're waiting for the conclusion, very soon we'll have all the results coming up, and I'll go over the results, and then Carmen would now move into her presentation. Again, I want to take this opportunity to welcome everybody to today's webinar. The result of the poll is coming up. Interesting. So shea-based cream, so what is your main product? As we can see on our screens, 19% are doing shea butter, 33%, 33.3% are doing shea-based creams, others black soap, 19%, and then others also 19%. So we have 38 of our respondents already exporting, 61 points, so almost 62% are not exporting. And so I'm certain that by the end of the phase of this project, we would have influenced a lot more people to be able to export. And for exporting, we see that other African countries, 28.6%, EU 23, almost 24%, USA, let's say 43%, Middle East 4.8%, and others 57%. How familiar are you with each country's regulations? Wow, this is very interesting. So 4.8, approximately 5% of our respondents are saying they are very familiar. 43% are saying they know the basics. And then 54 or 53, roughly 53%, not familiar at all. So our work is really cut out for us. And so I would want to say that at the end of this webinar, we would really get to know of the regulations of these countries, have a fair idea, and then we will take steps to get to know and move up better. So come in. You see, these are your respondents. You have a fair idea all that your respondents' expectations are. So at this stage, I would hand over to you and thank you for being part of the WACOMP program. And we are all eager, expectant to hear and to learn from you. So have a good time with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Having seen the results of your inquiry, I hope that this will help to those that are not familiar with the regulation of the countries they aim to export, that they can have a better idea and again help to those companies that want to export to success on the exportation. Okay, as it's mentioned, we have made an analysis of regulatory frameworks for 3 regions that we will see later, and this is the main frame of the structure of our presentation. First of all, I'm going to just make an overview on some questions and definitions on natural ingredients and products. As I've seen on your answers, there are a lot of companies producing black soap, shea butter based products, etc. Then it will be interesting to know some things about the questions that you were probably asking about on natural ingredients and natural products. Okay, after that, we will see the regulatory frames of 3 regions, and we will try to compare the regulatory frames of these 3 regions with the Ghanaian regulatory frame. So you can have a comparison table in how your regulation compares with the other countries. So based on that, you for sure know your regulation, you can have a better idea on how the regulatory frame works for other countries. And I will try a list of steps that you need to follow for a successful export. Okay, I said, first of all, an overview on natural ingredients and products. Okay, as you will probably know, there's an increasing market for both for natural ingredients and cosmetic based on natural organic ingredients. It's an increasing trend. That's the first thing. Second thing, Ghana is really rich in those ingredients: shea butter, cocoa butter, coconut oil, black soap, etc. And for this reason, you have an advantage for this exporting either the ingredient or the finished product to other markets. Then, as I said, there's a really high global demand, and there is a strong export potential for your ingredients and products. But okay, what have I read on the short analysis made in the WACOMP guide that you will probably know, and on how to comply with GSA and FDA procedures? That's literal. They are lacking quality, institutional capacities, and marketing strategies. The biodiversity can be a strength for local SMEs whenever they need to improve the compliance capacity and show the competitiveness. So what happens? I mean, there are a lot of opportunities to take this wave of the trend, and you need to be prepared for exporting ingredients and or finished product to those countries where they are not, or they are inexistent or very low availability for natural resources. So we as you probably know better than me, you have here a competitive strength for your resources, for your natural resources. Okay, some question about ingredients and finished product, natural ingredients and finished product. Okay, first of all, I always want to highlight that safety, it's not linked to natural, okay? The source of an ingredient doesn't determine its safety. There are many plants and that have allergic substances, that have toxic substances, and the ingredient must be safe for consumers, whatever the region, whatever the nature of the ingredient. So natural doesn't mean safe, okay? You need to evaluate the safety of the ingredient. Regulation on natural ingredients and products. When you go to the plant and livestock sector, the regulation is clear. For organic, I mean for organic, natural, for livestock and plants are of course natural, but for organic, the regulation is clear. But for cosmetics, in most markets, there are not regulated definition of natural either or organic, and the health authorities have not issued a formal position for finished product. So what can we find in the market? Okay, most of you probably have seen seals on the finished product. All this one that I have shown on the screen. That's a plethora of symbols, seals, definitions, etc. Then the consumer is confused, I should say. Just a question for this one, the eco labels are most related to sustainability, not really to naturalness of the ingredient or product, but sustainability. So I will take apart this seal and I will focus on natural and organic product. Then again, what do you see at the market? You see these private labels. You see the Cosmos standard. That's mainly for Europe. These 5 companies, ICEA, Bio, EcoCert, Soil Association, are European seals. But depending on the region, you have Australian, you have USDA, you have the Brazilian one, and Natru. Natru is also European, but is not has not joined the Cosmos standard. Then those are private labels. Each private label has their own standard and certification scheme. Okay, the seal is assigned based on the food audit criteria, goes from ingredients through the facilities, transport, packaging materials, etc. It's the same scheme that is used for plants or livestock. Okay, that's one way to declare your organicness or naturalness of the ingredient or product. And there is another one. As I said, those one, the previous screen, are private. There are many different schemes and standards. Each private company has his own standard and use his own scheme. If we go to an international standard, we need to go to ISO. You're really, for sure, very familiar with the ISO, International Standardization Organization. Then ISO finished a couple of standards. One is published in 2015 and the other one in 2017 for definitions and criteria for natural and organic cosmetic ingredients and products. Okay, as I said, only one standard, only one scheme, and specific for the cosmetic sector. It's not a stretching of the food standards. Then this using this standard, what you can see in the market, you saw for the previous screen what type of seals you find in the market. Using the standard, you will have a characterization and calculation tool. in such a way that you measure your ingredients, because the composition of a natural cosmetic product or a natural ingredient, I mean, the composition is the main thing that you need to communicate to your consumer. Okay, so you calculate using the international standard, and at the end of the day, what you can find in the market, those are real examples I took from the market. 96% natural origin ingredients, or whatever, 98, 42, whatever percentage of natural ingredient. Again, I said that it's just a characterization and calculation tool. The standard, the ISO standard defines natural and derived natural ingredients, natural and derived mineral ingredients, organic and derived organic ingredients, and water. Depending on the origin of the water, you have constitutive, reconstitution, extraction, formulation. I don't go in depth because, you know, that's a question that you read the standard and you understand the standard and use the standard to make your calculation. And also the standard define non-natural ingredients and products, okay? Just to show you a definition, what is a natural ingredient for the ISO standard? I read this cosmetic ingredient obtained only from plants, animals, microorganisms, and minerals, including those obtained from these materials, only by physical processes, grinding, drying, distillation, or through fermentations occurring in nature, and, very important, leading to molecules which occur in nature. Also, other preparation procedures, including traditional ones. I mean, you for sure are very familiar with these procedures because you have a lot of natural ingredients. Then you can consider under this heading plants, including fungi and algae, minerals, animals, or animal-derived ingredients, microorganisms, etc. Ingredients obtained from fossil fuels are excluded from the definition, just to show you an example on how the ISO standard works. Okay, I said 2 ways to communicate to consumer: the private seals, different standard, different scheme, and the internationally recognized ISO standard. Okay, let's go to the regulatory regions that we have analyzed. We have analyzed 3 regions. And why? Europe is the largest cosmetic market worldwide, okay? And US is the second one. Why Emirates? For 2 reasons. Emirates is one of the biggest importers in the Middle East, the first one for the Middle East and North Africa, and also has a regulatory frame very, very similar to the European one. You can see there is I normally say that there's a main difference among Europe and US, the cosmetic regulation of Europe and USA. European one is a more recent one, comes from, the regulation comes from 2009, and it's very new and very well structured, as you can see. Then it's very clearly understandable, and you can clearly understand and apply the regulation. In USA, I mean, it's a good regulation for sure, but it's more open. In such a way, you have, I mean, that's 2 ways. It is open is better, and it's open is worse, because you have not very clear what you need to do for comply with the regulation. We go very quickly to those 7 points important for you when you are trying to adapt to a product for the destination country. Okay, first of all, the first thing you need to see is the cosmetic definition, because the definition that you have of cosmetics is key to determine your product category. Okay, after that, what can I put to my formula? What ingredients are allowed and or not allowed for this particular country? Safety of the product. All wild war regulations look the safety of the consumer as a paramount question, because your product needs to be safe in the use by the consumer. Good manufacturing practices are your guarantee of safety, hygienic practices, and how your product fit to the design. The consumer information, the consumer needs to have all the information for a safe use of your product, okay? Then after that, you know, we will quickly for the market access. I mean, do I need a registration or not to enter to this market? And what are the competent authorities that are going to supervise my product? Okay, let's start with the cosmetic definition. I put the European versus the Ghanaian one. And I've used different colors to highlight what could be different or where you can find a difficulty to determine whether your product is a cosmetic or not in Europe, okay? I go to the European definition: any substance or mixture intended to be placed in contact with the external parts of the human body, epidermis, etc., 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 or with the teeth and mucous membranes of the oral cavity. With a view exclusively or mainly to clean, perfuming, changing the appearance, protecting, keeping them in good condition, or corrective body odors. Okay, if we go to the Ghana definition, I miss the external parts of the human body. And the European definition marks 2 points: where I apply my product and what's the function of my product. This is the 2 considerations to be taken for defining cosmetics. And I know I'm not an expert on the Ghanaian regulation, but my concern when I read your definition is some way where the product will be only applied to the external parts of the human body? Yes or no? You need to answer to this. And improving or altering the complexion, it's a kind of, you know, for me, it's a kind of well-defined function, okay? After that, really any product for you, for Ghana regulation, affect the structure or functions of the human body will be considered as a drug. For instance, a function of the human body is an antiperspirant, and an antiperspirant for the European, not for the US, that you can see later. For the European regulation, an antiperspirant is a cosmetic product and in some way alters affects the function of the human body. Okay, let's go to the American one. Here, as I said, the European is more well defined on where to apply in the function. The US one is more open, and we have 3 different characterizations, let's say. Cosmetics are articles. Remember that for you and for Europe, they're substance or mixtures, while in Europe, mention articles intended to be rubbed, poured, sprinkled, sprayed, introduced into. This is other difference with the European one. We, of course, in Europe, we don't see an introducing something into the body, okay? Articles intended for use as a component, it's also a cosmetic in US. And soaps are apart. There's another definition for soap. The main point that you need to have into consideration when you send a soap to US is what's made of, what ingredients cause its cleaning action, how is the ingredient cleaning, and how it is intended to be used. Okay, soaps, drugs. Be careful, because products that probably into the regulation and into the European regulation are cosmetics are not in US and follow on the category of OTC or drugs, then you need to look the monograph, specific monograph for this particular product. Protecting and correcting are not included into the definition of cosmetic for US. You can have problems when you arrive to the US border. Then you will stop if you use without careful any of these claims. And I mean, improving or altering the complexion can fall into the category of drugs in US. For instance, sun protection products, antiperspirants, anti-dandruff, that in Europe are cosmetics and US are not. Emirates, as I said, it's very, very similar to the European. It's where I apply my product, external parts of the body, and the function, cleaning, perfuming, changing therapy, etc. With the only difference that perfumes are defined apart. Any cosmetic and personal care product with a scent composed of fixative alcohol, water, colorant, etc. Okay, that's the only point that I will take into consideration with the cosmetic definition of Emirates. Ingredients. I will quickly, because you know it's just the main ideas for you. For Europe, it's very clear. There are annexes for all the defined substances. For prohibited or forbidden substances, 1,328 in Annex 2, restricted Annex 3, and positive list. The positive means only these ingredients can be used for this particular function: preservatives, colorants, and UV filters. There's a special focus in Europe for CMARs, nanomaterial. What I want to point out is that there are frequent revisions for the annexes in Europe. Okay, twice, 3 times a year, you have a modification on the annexes in light of the scientific advance and knowledge about ingredients. One important thing is that the database for ingredients, it's an open use. You can go and use free. That is different in US. There's not an open database in Europe for, in US for ingredients. And you have 2 standards, as you know. What you need to know is just to check you are restricted or prohibited substance, and check with the European annexes to check if your formula is okay or not with the European regulation. Most difficult to check in the US regulation. Only color additives have a pre-approval. Only color additives are permitted if when US FDA has approved for the use. There's only 12 ingredients prohibited, and it's under your responsibility to use the product, to use the ingredient into the product when you consider it safe. Okay, same, I mean, situation with your regulations. Emirates, very, very similar to the European one, in such a way that if you are exporting to Europe, probably with the same ingredients, you can export ingredient-wise to Emirates. Exception made, you can check carefully with alcohol or pork derivatives. Okay. Safety, very well defined and complicated to work with. The safety of the cosmetic ingredients is all into the product information file. It's a long and complicated document where you need to work on a cosmetic product safety report based on the ingredient toxicological profile. It needs a qualified safety assessor to build this product information file. You need to declare a lot of, I mean, it's a big file, but you don't need to approve this file. You have your file within your company or within the representative that you have at the country. You have this file and you need to present just at request of the authorities. You don't need a pre-approval of this product information file. For you, okay, your safety for your product relays on the standard compliance for raw material, manufacturing, etc. Then you need to check carefully the European regulation on the part referring to product information file, and check all the document that you need to compile to have this file for the safety of your product. US. The only thing that regulation says is the safety of the cosmetic can be considered adequately justified if a qualified by scientific training and experience can reasonably conclude, etc., etc. So if you have a product information file for Europe, for sure will work into the US, okay? Because in US it's not clearly defined what do you need. Only it says scientific training experience based on toxicological data, etc. Then you have it very clearly defined in the European product information file. Okay, and for Emirates, really very similar to the European one. So if you have a product information file based on the European requirements, for sure you can use on both on US and Emirates, with the only exception of the, as I said, the cosmetic definition. Good manufacturing practices. You will have for sure on writing all this presentation. GMPs, compliance with ISO 22716. Good manufacturing, cosmetic good manufacturing practices. If you comply with the ISO 22716, you are sure for exporting your product to the 3 different regions that we have analyzed. Depending on the country, you need to have a self-declaration. For Europe, is enough a self-declaration. But depending on the country and or the client, your customer, probably you will need a third-party certification. Okay, but the same standard is useful for all countries. Consumer information, we have labeling and claims. The 2 things, it's part of the consumer information. I put a diagram for the cosmetic regulation in Europe, inner and outer packaging with some exceptions that you can read in the regulation. There's no panel definition, no particular location or size for declarations. You need to declare all that the Article 19 has listed: name, product identity, warnings, INCI list. Okay, we have not been a long time, but INCI list will perhaps need a big explanation about country of origin, net contents, product, period after opening. It's not compulsory in US, but in some time in some products are compulsory in Emirates. When not, it's contribution for the disposal and recycling program. That's a picture or an image that comes from Cosmetics Europe, the European Cosmetic Association. Okay, yeah. One question: the language of some of these inscriptions, of some of this information, will be established in Europe by the member state where you send your product. It's different if you send your product to England or UK, just one thing. As you know, UK is leaving the US, so most of the regulation will be the same, but there are some particularities about product notification, etc., for the UK when this 2020 ends. Okay, but you need to take into consideration the language for the label. US, it's more complicated. There are different panels, the front panels, back panels, there are sizes, specific sizes required for labeling, and specific places where you need to put your information. Okay, the main display panel and the information panel, very, very rigid consideration on sizes and what needs to go in one of the different panels. Emirates, very similar to the ones that you have in Europe, in Arabic and English languages. Sorry about, for US, of course, English, except in some states that could be also in Spanish, but in Emirates, Arabic and English language. For sure, you know your standard on packaging and labeling, the GSO standard based on an ISO packaging and labeling for products. Consumer information out of the label, what we describe on the legal part of the label, we have the claims. What particularities, what do we say to the consumer about our product? It's clear in Europe, you have 6 criteria to be met: legal compliance, truthfulness, evidential support, honesty, fairness, and informed decision making for the consumer. You don't need a pre-approval of your publicity or claims for your product. As far as I know, within your country, you need a pre-approval application for advertising. We don't have in Europe. We don't have in Europe, we don't have in US. But be careful, because with your advertising or claims, you can cross the border between cosmetic and drugs. Then be careful on this about claims. You know, sorry. FDA, the US FDA Act prohibits marketing or, you know, it's not clear, adulterated or misbranded cosmetics. For instance, fails or misleading labeling, not clear, and you need to think very, very carefully what you are claiming about your product, just as I say, don't to cross the border. Okay. Sorry. Emirates, again, it's the same, very, very similar for Europe, but no pre-approval, but graphics, image, and phrases should be consistent with Islamic traditions and social values. Okay, you think on the culture of the customers in Saudi Arabia. Market access, I go quickly to the time constraints, but not pre-registration in Europe, only a notification to a electronic portal prior to place a product in the market. CPMP, the Cosmetic Product Notification Portal, is free of charge. To just go through and notify your product, and after 10 minutes you can put your product in the market. But you need to have a responsible person located in the UAE. You cannot send a product with a Ghanaian address, only the Ghanaian address into your label. It is not allowed. You need an address, a responsible person located in the United States. Okay, you have your local, as you know, the product certification procedure, etc. Then, okay, that no pre-approval for cosmetic. US, you don't need pre-approval before to go in the market. For cosmetics, remember, cosmetic definition is you need to take carefully into consideration, because cosmetics don't need FDA approval. But if you are an OTC, you are a drug, you need pre-approval. There's a voluntary cosmetic registration program, as I said, is voluntary for cosmetic state established by the FDA, the US FDA for cosmetics. It's not for professional use, beauty salons, spas, etc., and does not apply for samples, gifts, etc. Okay. It's not a cosmetic approval program, just a voluntary notification program. And be careful, I mentioned the red list. If you have an alert coming into the border, the US border, then automatically they will detain any of your products, even being compliant with the cosmetic definition for a pre-approval. You come into what they call a red list. Market access, as I said, Emirates, very similar. There are some basic legislation, but you need to take into consideration which one of the different Emirates you are going to export, because there are some differences with the different markets. I mean, you need to carefully read all the information. You need an ESMA approved certificate that confirms that your product complies with the technical regulation, valid for 1 year, and you need to renew in annual basis. This e-cosme product listing has gradually become compulsory depending on the product category. So again, you need to check what your products need to compulsory need to be included on the electronic Cosme product listing. You need to have a local representative or appoint a local distributor in Emirates to export your products there. Okay, let's go very quick, just a few minutes for my recommendations. Oh, sorry. That's particular for Ghana. What's my recommendation? A step recommendation for a successful export. Okay, first of all, to define clearly, look at the definition, the cosmetic definition we have been explaining during the presentation. Okay, you need to check the regulation on the destination, the country or region destination versus the Ghanaian FDA. Okay, then you have for the guidelines for processing of export definition for the Ghanaian FDA, the definition of your product, the product within your country. You need to check if this definition meets or not the region you go. Then answer to the question, is my product a cosmetic for this particular country? If yes, then you check regulatory, the destination country, then you need time for regulatory compliance, etc. If my answer is no, do I fit into any other category in the destination country? Remember, for US, we have a special category for soaps. And if I cannot fit into any other category, can I reformulate to be compliant with the definition of my destination country? What about my label? What about my claims? Again, check your particular Ghanaian regulation. Then I go again to the FDA, Ghanaian FDA registration all samples of products submitted shall conform the current labeling regulation. I mean, current, we think Ghana, but what about the language, the size, the panels, the symbols, and the claims within the destination country? Check the ingredient lists and compare with the allowed ingredients in the destination countries. It's my ingredients a carcinogenic, mutagenic, or reprotoxic ingredient? It's a nanomaterial, it's prohibited or limited in the destination countries, a colorant, preservative, UV filter, then perhaps your product needs a reformulation to fit the destination, ingredient list destination. GMPs, do I need to comply? As I said, GMPs, ISO GMPs standard, it's needed for all the 3 regions we have analyzed. So do I need a third-party certification? Okay. Is my GSA certification valid in the destination country? This is the point that you need to check with your client in the destination country. Other question is, can I formulate a product to export to more than one market? Okay, if I'm trying to export, why don't make a synergy and try to formulate the product to fit into different markets, so it's easier for me to make a choice on one or another. Do I need a pre-registration or only a pre-notification in this country? Will I need to appoint a responsible person or a legal representative within the country? Will I need a representative to act on my behalf? All these questions are the ones you need to have into considerations. Just a list of competent authorities is just a list. You need to, you can check it and just to resume what we have been listing on the different screens, and you need to check who is going to supervise your product. It's competent authorities are in Europe different for the different member states. In US, the supervision not centralized with all central regulatory body. Dubai has a municipality, and Emirates has a standardization and metrology body. I need to check who is going to supervise your product on the destination country. Okay, then it was very quickly a quick review on all the analyze country regulation. And if you have questions, I will be happy to try to respond by now or even by writing later on.
Thank you very much, Carmen, for such detailed presentation. Personally, I've got to know a lot more of what has to be done, but I guess the actors themselves also appreciate the presentation. So on behalf of the WACOMP team and our attendees, we want to say thank you very much. We have 2 questions, but I guess by the time these questions are done, others would follow. So the first question is saying that somebody is asking that if he or if the firm is sending their products to the lab for testing purposes, should they tell the lab all the composition, all the ingredients? But he thinks, should they disclose all the ingredients in the chemical or in the formulation to the lab? Because in his mind, he thinks that the lab is going to run a lab test, so they should rather run the test and tell them what is there, rather than they eventually telling the lab, in quotes, their recipe. What is your response?
Okay, it depends on the reason why you send your product to the lab. I mean, first of all, for your ingredient list, you know that for a cosmetic, you need to declare all the ingredients. With your INCI list, you have all the ingredients declared, okay? And you're responsible to, put into your formula all the things you declare on your label. And what's the reason you send the lab to analyze the product? Normally, I can think that perhaps I want a certificate, third-party certification for, let's say, a limited quantity of any UV filter or preservative or whatever. But I cannot see the reason why I will send my product to the lab to analyze the whole formula. So if you can clarify this point, perhaps we can help better to understand the people this question. Do you send you produce your product at the lab? You prepare 2 kilograms of your formula and you send to the lab to analyze all? Make no sense for me.
Okay. I think if there is a follow-up, we will get the follow-up from the question.
Okay.
Sure. And then the second question is now saying that if you, can you sell your products with just the cosmetics products notification, or you would have to sell it with a PFI as a requirement before accessing the market? The PIF.
Okay, yeah, let me understand. Your PIF, as it's established in Europe, PIF, you don't need to upload to the notification portal. No, you keep your product information file. As a company, you need to understand the product information file is all your know-how about your product. It's the formula, it's the production site, it's the production method, all your knowledge is there. Only competent authorities can review it. So it's you need to keep at home. If the competent authority comes, for sure, you need to show them. But it's a really confidential document. When you notify the product in Europe to the CPMP, that's a short notification. Hello, I'm a company, I'm here, that's my name, that's my product. And you can upload the formula or what we call a frame formula. That is, it's a resume or your formula declaring those ingredients. They are especially, let's say, especially dangerous for the consumer. For instance, alcohol. Because this particular ingredient you need to declare, because the product notification portal is used both by the competent authorities and the poison centers, in such a way that if you have an accident, let's say product come into your eyes or a boy drinks some product, the poison centers can go into the portal and see what's the ingredient that they need to medically treat for, for this particular issue.
Okay, thank you. Since we just talked of the PIF, I would follow up with a question on that before I move to. So another question is that, who are the competent authorities that assess your PIF, and should you get this before you start selling in Europe?
Okay, as I said, you need a responsible person in Europe and address a representative in Europe that is responsible for holding the PIF and showing to the authorities at request. And the health authorities, the different member state health authorities who can access to the product information file, only health authorities at request. Okay, yes, with a reasonable request. It's not curiosity. I come here to see your product information file. No, we have a problem, we have doubts about this particular ingredient, whatever, a reasonable doubt, they can ask you to check your product information file. And another thing is, if your responsible person is, let's say, in Germany, then the product information file needs to be in German, and only German authorities, German health authorities have access. If for instance, the French or Spanish health authorities have a problem with this product, I mean, it's causing whatever problem to a consumer, then they cannot ask you in Germany. They need to ask the German authorities, and then the German authorities will check your product information file to keep the confidentiality of the document.
All right, thank you very much. The first question, I think there's a follow-up, so I come back to that. So in simple terms, the firm wants to know, I mean, they're giving an example, for instance, that for instance, if Coca-Cola sends their products to the lab for testing, do Coke give all their ingredients to the lab for the lab to know the secret formula? I think the bottom line is that the firms are afraid that if you give your formula to the lab, they will steal your recipe. So that is the follow-up for that first question.
Okay. First of all, I doubt Coca-Cola sent an external lab for analyzing. I mean, if you go back, if you want to send, for instance, Canadian authorities take a product from the market and send to the lab for analyzing, okay? Well, then you know that when analyzing a product, you only find whatever you look for. So if the competent authorities send a product to the lab to being analyzed, it's for they have a doubt on whatever this product is causing a problem to the consumer, or to check if there's a forbidden substance or a limited substance that is far away from the limit or whatever. But I sorry about, I don't think the need to open up my formula to an external lab. If I want to check, let me put you an example, perhaps to clarify. I produce a sun protection product, and I need to check the sun protection factor. I just send the formula to the lab, and they don't need to analyze the product, just the efficacy test. But if before sending the product for the efficacy testing, I want to check if my filter, let's say benzophenone or titanium dioxide or whatever, is in the correct amount, because it's limited for the regulation, I send to the other lab and I said, okay, I want to check the amount of titanium dioxide or benzophenone. But the whole formula has no sense. If I know my formula, what I suggest is, in my experience, with a company ask for something, this company has a problem and is not very kind to openly expose this. Perhaps if we can ask whatever company or whatever an expert asks this question to send in writing a more detailed question, I can ask, I can make answer with a better idea.
All right, so thank you very much. So, but I think this is one of the issues that most of our entrepreneurs always have, that sending our products to either the labs, any of the labs, I don't want to mention it, but there's always that suspicion that when I send my products to the lab, it's possible, and I give them my ingredients, it's possible that my formula can be taken and given to somebody else to go and produce. This is something that is really amongst us, and we always scared to send products to the lab for testing.
Yeah, I understand it. It's the same question for the product information file. It's all your knowledge on this formula. And okay, if you can send a formula to the lab, but I think that you don't need to open the whole formula unless, because I can imagine, as we said, competent authority comes and said, okay, I'll take your product because I'm suspecting that you're using a forbidden ingredient. So I put the product in the hands of the lab, and I tell, look for hydroquinone, for instance, okay? And they found if you have or not this particular ingredient. But in the meantime, they come to me and they, okay, show me your formula. Okay, for the authorities, you need to give all the information. But I don't think that you need to open your formula to the lab, because probably you sent to analyze a particular ingredient. I think that you don't mind if your emulsifier is A or B or C whenever you're using a load ingredients. Just to need to know, or the competent authorities need to know, whenever you have a forbidden ingredient within your product, because you are looking for an efficacy that you cannot find with another allowed component. I mean, hydroquinone is a very, very typical example for whitening, skin whitening. Then if you are claiming skin whitening product, and there are non-fair companies using hydroquinone or even mercury salts, then this type of things you need to analyze. But the whole formula, who cares? I mean, it's basic ingredient, glycerin, propylene glycol, emulsifiers, sodium lauryl sulfate, whatever. That is just very known, very well-known ingredients.
Thank you very much, Camille. And there are other questions. There are more, so I've just summarized them in one. So our participants want to know if there is a central repository where all these requirements and standards can be found. And then if there's a website that you can direct us to, that they can maybe refer to this information, especially for those who want to export to Europe.
What do you mean with the reciprocity? I mean, if your product is sell in Ghana, does the European authorities approve the use? Or?
Okay, so let me take it. So that if people who participants who want to export to Europe, they would want to find. They appreciate all the information they've received, but they want to find out if there is a website or there is a link that they can find all these requirements.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's the European Commission website for cosmetic. I mean, European Commission is divided in GGs by sectors. Okay, then you go to the. I mean, it's in my paper. I can send you, or you can send your participants a link where you can find the whole regulation for for Europe, and even for US, for the FDA. The FDA website, you find a lot of information. It's sometimes more difficult for Emirates because there are, I mean, difficult for me because there's Arabic language, Arabian, and it's difficult to read. But for Europe or US, you can find the regulation within their websites without problems. Standards, ISO standards is another thing. You can easily find it, but you need to pay for the ISO standards. Not I don't know, even for your country. I mean, in Europe, the ISO standards, the ISO standards are published on English and French, but if the Spanish standardization body translates to Spanish, then you need to pay for this translation. I mean, ISO standards you need to pay. Are easy. You can easily find on the ISO standard, but you need to pay for the copy. It's a copyright. But for the regulations, either in Europe or US, you have a lot of information on regulation within their websites.
Sure. Maybe at this point also, just like Carmen said, we also want to inform all our attendees and listeners that we're also preparing a brochure with all the different regulations, as Carmen has found out. So when that brochure is ready, it will be sent and will be uploaded also on our website, and then you can have access to all the relevant information as she has also informed us about. So we're looking at all the different countries, and then we would upload all that into the brochure for everybody to see. That would inform us as to how to get access into different markets available to us. Coming, there is one more that's saying that, so we want to understand this process again with all these CPNP, that so as long as you have a responsible person and you upload your products are uploaded to the CPNP, do you still, your ingredients need not to be tested by a lab before being sold in Europe? Is that the case?
No, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I mean, you are responsible for what you are putting into your product, and you are you need to comply with the regulation, with the annexes about ingredients, and you are responsible to be the product information file. But you just have a responsible person, you upload your product to the CPNP, and that's it.
Okay. Okay. So that is it.
You can cheat, I mean, anyone can cheat the authorities. You know, a cheat in the sense of, okay, I upload the formula and I am using another one. Okay, it's up to you. It's the same situation if you drive at, let's say, 220 kilometers by the high road. Okay, if the police comes, then.
All right. If they don't come, then you're on your own. Then you survive it.
Yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah. All right. I think at this stage we've exhausted all the questions in our Q&A box. I don't know if there's something else you'd want to say whilst you wrap up. Otherwise, all the questions have been taken care of. Come in?
Yes, sorry. I couldn't take your last sentence.
Okay, so there's one more here that's saying that if I want to send my samples to the lab for tests, so then that is why you have to put on your label, your chemical composition. That is right. Yes. Okay. Yes.
All the ingredients must be in the INCI list. Even, if we had more time, we sometimes misunderstanding with natural extracts. Natural extracts, for instance, lavender extract normally has a glycerin and water. You need to open your formula, and you have to declare not only the plant extract, lavender plus propylene glycol plus glycerin. All this you need to display on the INCI list. Okay, any ingredient present need to be displayed on the INCI list for the finished product. But I mean, sending to the lab, as I said, I don't see really the reason to display, to open the whole formula to the lab.
Then we would also want to find out if you know of any EU certified testing lab in Ghana.
You mean me?
Yes, you.
In Ghana?
Yes.
No, I'm so. I mean, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the market. To say the companies present in Ghana. I know. I'm sure that there are Ghanaian lab a question from me to you. Is there any, let's say, certification scheme for labs? I mean, for the testing labs in Ghana?
Come again?
I mean, do they now? Yeah. Do they the certification labs, the lab where I send my product to be analyzed, external one?
Yeah.
Do they need a special certification for from the health authorities or something, or is any other scheme for this?
Yes, the labs are, some of the labs are accredited and they also work with their ISO schemes.
Okay, so go, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if your lab is has a certification from the health authorities and is working on ISO schemes for good manufacturing practices, I can assume that it's a reliable lab. After that, you will probably within your country international lab companies that also comply with all the standards. I mean, I'm not familiar with that, but I'm sure that if a lab has all the certifications and ISO standard certification by third party or whoever this is used in Ghana, you can use it. I'm not sorry, I'm not familiar with this type of companies in Ghana.
That's fine. We're supposed to have had our colleagues from FDA and GSA, and I think other equally important assignments did not allow them to join us. But we have a quality expert, Fred Dramna. So Fred, kindly turn on your camera and then you can tell us, respond to a few of the things for us. Yes, Fred.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Canon, and thank you, Charles, and thank you for the participant. Yeah, just a few additions to whatever you've done. When it comes to lab, two things. When we are talking about accreditation of laboratories to do this type of testing, we have very competent testing laboratories for cosmetics, but they are not competent authorities granted by the European Union. No. They are competent testing laboratories that are dealing with cosmetics and other products, but they do not derive their authority from the European Union. Some of them are going through ISO accreditation, the 17025, that establishes the competence of a testing facility. Okay? Grant that does not mean that you have European authorization. It goes beyond, because the ISO accreditation is global. Okay? So some of these labs conducting these tests have accreditation from either global accreditation bodies, and therefore they are competent to carry out tests on cosmetics. That is the situation. It's not like the fish that the European Union has selected a specific lab, taking them through all the protocols and grant them that authority as the competent laboratory for testing fish for the European Union market. We don't have a similar arrangement for cosmetics in Ghana. But they are competent state labs that are testing.
Okay. I can check it. I can check it and give you later an answer. I don't think there is a list, let's say a list of authorized labs within the European Union that you can use for your product. I mean, whenever your lab in Ghana has gone through the ISO accreditation for laboratory good manufacturing practices, ISO 9000 whatever quality assurance, I'm sure that you will not have problems. But let me check and I will answer to you, Fred. Thank you very much for your clarification.
Thank you. Fred, before you go, somebody wants to know that if he or she wants to get ISO certified, what should he do? So what should a firm do?
Okay. Am I on? Yes.
You are on. Please go ahead.
For getting ISO certification for, like you said, quality assurance management systems, you first of all try to apply to any of the accredited institutions that can help you achieve ISO 9000 certification. You know, certification is some kind of, if like a testimonial that the person has what it takes to help you achieve ISO 9000 certificate. There are quite a number of companies like that in Ghana, all certified or accredited by international bodies.
Okay.
If I don't want to be biased, but if you want one of the private public partnership, there is a management system certification scheme operated by Ghana Standards Authority, which has that global accreditation. Okay, and there are equally private organizations also accredited by different bodies operating in Ghana. Several of them, the accreditation bodies coming from Europe, it's either from UK, it's either from Netherlands, it's from Germany, it's from Spain, all over France. They are all operating here in Ghana as agents for those international certification bodies. So the first thing is look around, the one that will be relevant, especially take a look at where you intend exporting your product.
All right.
Talking about mutual recognition, and sometimes like the one from France, you prefer to use a certification body that is accredited by France.
Yes.
And that makes, you know, things work better and easy. There are quite a number of them here, and then they will tell you how to proceed. Either you engage a consultant, an expert that will help you build a system in line with the preferred or the reference standard, because there are several management system standards. These days, we promote the integrated approach. Okay, so it will not be only quality, but testing, laboratory, environment, occupational health and safety. You get that integrated because the high level standard requirements are almost the same. You find the same thing in the 9,000, the same thing in 22,000, the same thing in 14,000, the same thing in 27,000. So it is easy to build a system that has that common foundation, and therefore you narrow in depending on your focus or your target. So it is done. And if you be a good consultant, within 18 months, you should be able to achieve certification. It's all about skills and experience.
Okay. So thank you very much, Fred. Yes, come in.
Thank
Before
you.
no,
that's my sorry to point about Fred's help on this issue. I think it works the same in Europe. When if I have a lab and I want to be certified by the third part, okay, first of all, I need to an internal audit. I mean, I need to know before if I could apply for this certification, being the GM, good manufacturing lab practices, being the 9,000, 14,000, whatever. I need to look inside and check if my organization is able to ask for this standard. It's the same that Fred says. And after that, I look for a certifier, being European, being whatever, a qualified certifier that can certify for any standard I want to apply. That's I think in Europe works in the same way that Fred says here in Ghana.
All right. So thank you very much, Fred, for contributing to the process. Carmen, we want to thank you very much. But before we wrap up, it's been nice having you for the past 1.5 hours. What would you want to end with so that we can now wrap up? Your last comments, your last words to us.
Okay, my last comment. It's okay. You, I know it's difficult to export, but my recommendation is if also if you are to have a brochure on the resume that we have, check carefully the step we mentioned, and go through all these points. But first of all, check your own company. The same that Fred and me told is, look at your company, be sure that you are producing a quality product, and then check the reference or the frame regulation for the destination country, and look at the difference. But first of all, look at your own company. Take any of the references market regulation and look for your product, look for your quality, and try to improve. GMPs is a really, really important thing. I mean, if you work with the GMPs, with the good manufacturing practices, use the 22716 ISO and check all your process. If you are in compliance, you can be sure that your product, it's a good quality one. And then you have half of the road made.
All right. I think that was very insightful of wrapping up for us. So we should first check our own products, make sure our quality is up, make sure our GMPs are up and running, get the regulations of the countries we want to export to, and make sure we also comply to that. So we check these boxes. Let's work around and get our products also registered. On this note, we want to thank you so much, Carmen, for joining us for today's webinar. It's been so insightful. It's given us all the knowledge that we need. And I'm sure this is not going to be the end. We'll come back knocking on your doors again in the very near future to have another session with us to discuss further on regulations and how to achieve them, and even other issues that might pop up. For my colleague Fred, we also thank you for coming in to explain the processes again to us. On behalf of the WACOMP team, we want to thank all of you for joining us once again. And please be reminded that our e-marketing to e-commerce training is coming on. We've sent emails to all those who were selected. Please respond to the emails, follow the email prompts, and then you do the needful, the messages that were sent to the email. And we believe in the next 2 weeks, we'll be meeting and the course will be kicking off. Let's get ourselves ready. And I believe we'll have such a nice and interesting time ahead of us, where our products can have online presence and be sure to be making sales and be making money from whatever we produce. As we always say in value chain development, it's products that are sold that brings money. If you develop a new product and it sits in your home, it's not money, it's not income. Once it is sold, it is income. So let's develop products that meet regulations to sell domestically and also internationally. On behalf of the WACOMP team, again, we say thank you so much. Thank you to my colleague Ebe, who has been on the other side. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Joseph, Fred, and Na for all your contributions. And so I believe that for the cosmetic sector actors, you would find Na a chair, and she would help you with all the necessary questions that may come up. On this note, yes, Ebe, yes, it's good to see your face. Yes. Ebe, thank you so much. You have something to say?
No, I think it was a great webinar. I personally learned a lot, and I could follow up with the questions. I truly believe that the participants also really enjoyed the webinar. So thank you, Carmen, for all your support. And as Charles said, it's not over yet. We still have some work to do to accompany the cosmetic companies to be better and to be better performing. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last word, to wrap up, for also the companies that we're doing the coaching and then all the one-on-one, would I entreat you to please continue with all these processes with us. And then as Fred said, with all issues on quality management ISO, we have plans within the program to also handhold some companies that demonstrate your willingness to grow, to develop, to help you through these certification processes. So let's keep working. And I believe before WACOMP ends, you won't be the same. You will find yourself on a different level. On that note, we say thank you very much. Keep safe, enjoy the weekend, and we meet in the 2 weeks' time, starting off with e-marketing to e-commerce. Coming, gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.